Lowe's knows that free is just better. That's why MyLowe's Rewards is free to join. As a member, you earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases, get exclusive free gifts, and earn free shipping at Silver Key status, all on top of weekly member-only deals. Don't wait. Join MyLowe's Rewards for free today and start saving more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
You know, some people say that Odoo business management software is like fertilizer, the way it promotes growth and all. But other people say Odoo is like a magic beanstalk because it grows with your company and is also magically affordable. And there's some people who would even say Odoo's individual software programs come together to build the perfect suite like building blocks. Well, Odoo is all of these things. Fertilizer, magic beanstalk, building blocks for business. So sign up now at odoo.com. ODOO.com.
And so I told her, if you want, we can go to the Go Machine store and get another vroom vroom.
Tom, do you mean car?
With the beeps, the one that goes beep,
Yeah.
beep,
Yeah,
like that.
Pretty sure he means car.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beep, beep.
Well, see, that's your problem right there. The mic faces this way.
Oh, see, Cecil never said that.
Cecil never said, don't sit on your microphone.
Sorry? Yes, he did say that. He said that a lot.
Hey,
I take that back.
Eli, what is Thomas Smith of the Opening Arguments podcast doing here?
And Serious Inquiries Only and Philosophers in Space.
Yeah. Thomas, are you like on our podcast now? You can't be on all the podcasts.
Well, I mean, kinda. Cecil said he was going to be busy this week, so he put me in charge of the podcast.
Wait, Cecil's not in charge of this podcast. And if he is, I would definitely be in second place.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, I was surprised too, but hey, what's one more podcast? Am I right? Plus, I got all sorts of cool ideas. Like, I was thinking, what if we come up with a new name apropos of nothing? I mean, I don't really understand how that title relates to the show.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh.
It is the whole...
Well, yeah, it literally doesn't. It doesn't at all. It's the title of it is that it doesn't.
You know, a vroom vroom. It goes. It's got a shiny key, friend.
The car, yep.
Wait, no, look, Thomas, I appreciate you coming all the way down here, but I get that Cecil did this in the spirit of today's episode about Maximillian I of Mexico, but you can't just be in charge of our podcast.
I can't?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. I guess I'll take all this legal weed I brought and go home.
Now, you hear that, everybody? Thomas is in charge. Now you have to do what he says.
Yay!
Thomas has drugs.
So the microphone doesn't go in my butt at all.
No, man, not at all.
Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we are experts. Because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Cecil, and I'll be your server this evening. Let me start you out with some drinks. First up, a guy who almost certainly has accidentally drank from a can that someone dyed a cigarette out in, and another guy who drinks scotch that tastes like that on purpose, Noah and Heath.
You know, I would feel so much better about it if it had been someone else that put the fucking cigarette there, you know?
You know what I've been doing recently? I've been doing my scotch with free-speared nicotine patches as a garnish. I just drop them in.
Oh, there you go.
They dissolve.
Yeah, you know what you do, Heath? You chill your Nicorette gum and then just drop it in there, and then it doesn't dilute the
exactly.
thing like
Oh,
ice.
smart.
It's perfect. Yeah,
Smart. Yeah.
Also joining us tonight, a guy who only orders off menu and another who orders everything on it. Eli and Tom.
Yeah, sometimes they're just facts pages I tore out of a vegan cookbook to the restaurant and tell them I'll be there at 7. Hate you so much.
You know, one of the options for every menu is just
Yep.
yes. You can just it's the best. And I have done that.
Folks, you ever go out to eat, before the pandemic and your waiter was super funny and charming and got everything you wanted before you even asked, and then you didn't leave him a tip? Yeah, some of you are doing that right now. If you want to repent, be sure to stick around till the end of the show. And with that out of the way, tell us, Tom, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event we'll be talking about today?
Well, today, on the suggestion of patron Jessica Davis, we will be talking about Maximilian I of Mexico.
Okay, Noah. Who was Maximilian I of Mexico, and why does our story start with the Etruscans?
They don't
why is that?
start with the Etruscans. Sometimes Tom deletes that stuff. So
This was a 34-page script before we started. I just want to say before the edits.
now it's now down to 32. All right. So he was an Austrian noble who gained fame as a naval commander, then spent a few years telling the people of Mexico that he was their emperor before catching a fatal case of no, the fuck you aren't.
It feels oddly topical.
Yeah, no, yeah, I like to keep it fresh. All right, so Maximilian was born on July 6th of 1832 in the Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna, and if his blood was any bluer, he'd be a goddamn horseshoe crab. He's named Ferdinand Maximilian after his paternal uncle Ferdinand I, Emperor of Austria, and his maternal grandfather Maximilian I Joseph, King of Bavaria. His mother, Princess Sophie of Bavaria, was apparently a smart, ambitious, and talented individual. His father, Archduke Franz Karl, not so much. The wiki quotes historian Richard O'Connor, who describes Max's dad as, quote, an amiably dim fellow whose main interest in life was consuming bowls of dumplings drenched in gravy.
Awesome.
To be thought of as amiably dim, to eat dumplings drenched in gravy. If I had a computer simulated heaven, I could not think of anything else to add. That would be it.
And now that I know this and it's taken, I need to think of a new epitaph.
Right.
So that's not...
Sorry about that.
Fuck.
Now, because old-timey royalty has a very Real Housewives of Württemberg feel to it, there were rumors that Maximilian was the product of an extramarital affair between his mom and Napoleon II, the guy who was emperor of France for like 11 minutes at one point. And this rumor made it into his Wikipedia page 190 years later. But that's nowhere near the weirdest thing.
That sucks,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's like, great. And you're going to write about how my dad was banging, or my mom was banging someone else on the
So
side.
she certainly
200 years
But
later.
Napoleon II. That's
Yeah.
cool.
But
I wish my mom was banging Napoleon II.
all right.
Well, I am short.
All right, but so that's nowhere near the weirdest thing to sneak into his Wikipedia page, though. There's also this childhood picture of him that was very clearly painted by somebody that wanted to fuck him.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah, that's weird.
It's very tender.
Yeah, and based
Tender
on
painting.
the ass is all sticking
like a
out.
weird-
It's weird. And
It's a weird, like, pedophilic glamour shot of, like, the 1800s.
It's on a couch like George Costanza. It's pretty nice.
But see, and based on all the other pictures of him as an adult, I'm willing to bet that this was the last time wanting to fuck him ever happened. Okay? Because after that, the dude looks like a Munsters cameo about a werewolf whose heart just isn't in it anymore.
Wait, he looks like Ted Cruz? That doesn't...
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, actually. And the turnover happened so fast. It's very jarring. Like, he's a beautiful kid. Kind of looks like pixie cut Emma Watson.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like Hermione, Ted Cruz in the Civil War. And it's so fast.
Yeah, with the chops
it's
and everything.
jarring,
Yeah, imagine
yeah.
if Ted just shaved the beard right down the middle in a stripe. Yeah. All right. So anyway, he grew up as any uber-rich Austrian noble would, I guess. He had a private tutor and horses and people to step on if he needed to reach a high shelf. He was heavily educated for his day, and apparently he was insanely competitive.
Huh? Sounds like Heath. Except smart and rich.
Okay. I see what you're doing. Yeah.
Didn't let me finish.
Great.
Short.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Way better. Yep.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So he was the second son of a
Comedy
second son. All right. So he was the second son of a second son, which made him a royal afterthought.
No, we call those kids surprises. That's
Yeah,
better
right. Well,
than
he was a
accident.
surprise as a surprise.
Portions.
Yeah. So he was determined nonetheless to prove to everybody that he was actually the most qualified to lead the empire. After all, there were all kinds of shit an older cousin or brother could die of back then, right?
Yeah, like a younger cousin or brother.
For example, yeah, exactly. So Max is just shy of his 16th birthday when the revolutions of 1848 erupt all across Europe. So this is a series of political upheavals that are often referred to as the springtime of the peoples or the spring of nations, wherein a bunch of popular revolutions sought to overturn monarchies with democratic systems. Emperor Ferdinand sees the writing on the wall and decides to abdicate his throne, but not not in favor of something liberal or democratic. He just wants to retire and not have to worry about that shit anymore. So he hands his shit show of a throne to somebody else, specifically Maximilian's older brother, Franz Joseph.
Okay.
Feels like that's just going to be a big back and forth of abdicating, right? I feel like that was the origin of no backsies right there.
Touch the throne, you're on it. Touch the throne.
Okay, no, just to clarify, he abdicated because the people wanted a democracy, so he gave them a different monarch?
Yep.
Did that fool anyone? Was he just like, okay, just change your name to Phil Democracy? And this would be sick. Like, it'll just, boom.
No, he's just like, what we need is somebody with the energy to kill these motherfuckers. And that's what he got. So Emperor Franz Joseph's first job was to put down all these protests and riots and shit. And his little brother accompanied him on several campaigns to do that over the next year. It would take hundreds of deaths and thousands of imprisoned agitators to put down the revolution. And to his credit, Maximilian was horrified by the brutality of the campaign and openly complained. He said later, quote, "We call our age the age of enlightenment, but there are cities in Europe where in the future men will look back in horror and amazement at the injustice of tribunals, which in a spirit of vengeance condemn to death those whose only crime lay in wanting something different to the arbitrary rule of governments which place themselves above the law." End quote.
Okay, so it hurt him more than it hurt them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so as right as he wound up being, this will be an increasingly ironic quote as the story goes on.
P.S. I would never do anything like that. Nuh-uh,
Yeah,
not
right.
me, that's for sure.
Yep.
Well, the important part is it's horrifying when it happens in Europe. Guys. So
Yes.
Yeah.
the atrocities are like real estate. Location, location, location.
All right, so by the time he's 18,
They are,
Maximilian is a lieutenant in
So
the
are.
Navy, and the wiki literally makes it out like that's because he's so darn good at his studies or some shit and has so much zeal for the job, and not because he's the fucking brother of the emperor. But regardless of how he got there, by 1854, he's the 18-year-old commander of the corvette Minerva. Side note, apparently a corvette is a small warship that is traditionally the smallest class of vessel considered to be a proper warship. It's the next boat down from a frigate. So at the ripe old age of 22, he was appointed commander-in-chief of the Imperial Austrian Navy. All right, so now you might be thinking to yourself, hold on a second, isn't Austria landlocked?
No, Noah, because it's not. It's a huge island full of kangaroos. That's not even.
All right, so Austria was way bigger back in the 1860s, and back then it actually was still landlocked. Well, it kind of was, kind of was. It didn't matter, though. If you wanted to be a major player at this point in military history, you needed a big-ass navy. And nepotism or no, Maximilian actually turned out to be a pretty good naval commander-in-chief, at least compared to whatever random-ass duke got the job from his uncle before that. So he set out immediately modernizing the fleet and reorganizing their naval doctrine.
Okay, guys, step one, just all this shit needs wheels. It's land everywhere.
Well, Franklin, our frigate is complete. Ain't she a beauty?
Oh, yes, indeed, sir. But, you know, one thing.
14 cannon on each side, solid oak and fast. Oh, man. She's the finest ship in the Austrian Navy, I'll tell you.
I think everyone can see that, sir. The problem I see is that there's
And
just...
she's well equipped. Yes, no worry about starvation on my ship. The hold is full of schnitzel and soccer torts. We will rule the seas and eat like kings.
I love soccer torts, sure. I sure do. But I just wanted to point out one thing.
What is it, Franklin?
Well, it's according to Google Maps, it's a 64-hour walk to the sea, sir.
And?
It's a ship. How are we going to get the ship to the sea?
Ah, you think me unclever, do you? It has handles.
Handles, sir?
Yes, of course. 2 of them.
Of course, sir.
One on each side, Franklin.
Both sides.
Let's not reinvent the handle here.
All right, so I should note, too, that Max was a big fan of the sciences, specifically botany. One of the big reasons he wanted a kick-ass Navy is that he was jealous of all the other major powers being able to hog up all the cool scientific discoveries. Within a couple of years of taking over the Navy, he initiated a large-scale 2-year scientific expedition on the frigate SMS Novara, which would become the first Austrian warship to circumnavigate the globe. But he also could kick some ass. It was the fleet that he put together, after all, that allowed Admiral Wilhelm von Tegetthoff to dominate the North Sea during the Second Schleswig War of 1864. Yes, that Wilhelm von Tegetthoff.
Wow.
No, sometimes I worry your essays are too mainstream and relatable.
I know. That's probably legit. So he was also considered a progressive liberal by the standards of his day, which were admittedly neither progressive nor liberal. But his reputation as a reformer and a modern thinker made him a great candidate when his brother had to replace an old, stuffy viceroy that had come to embody the old way to an increasingly discontented populace. It's like picking Kamala Harris as your running mate. It makes the progressives feel a little better, even though vice president can't really do anything.
Being landlocked and voting for your favorite naval captain, that sounds like the primary, actually, now that you mention it.
We should let Iowa go first.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, to chase the ocean thing. Anyway, so Maximilian takes over as the viceroy of the Kingdom of Lombardy Venetia, which is a puppet government that allows Austria to kind of have a coastline. And for those unfamiliar with the term viceroy, that basically means representative of the king, or in this case, the emperor. So he's the guy that makes the day-to-day policy in an area on behalf of the sovereign. And at this point in the story, Max is 25 years old, which is a little late in a story of 19th century royalty to get to the cousin fucking. But yes, it's around this time that he marries his second cousin, Charlotte, daughter of Leopold I of Belgium.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, Noah. Cousin fucking should start much younger. When were you thinking?
Jesus
Well, you're the
Christ.
one who used the word should. I'm not making a value judgment. I'm just saying it does. Now, unfortunately for Max, he didn't get the memo that he was only supposed to look liberal. And he actually started being liberal, and that pissed off his brother, who ultimately fired him in favor of a less progressive viceroy. About 16 minutes later, the population told Franz Joseph to fuck off, and shortly afterwards, Austria lost damn near all of its Italian possessions. Meanwhile, Maximilian fucked off to Trieste to build himself a big-ass castle and spend his days classifying plants or something.
I'm not too liberal for you, am I, Libelius Comini? No, I'm not. I'm your favorite viceroy.
Exactly. Okay, so but then in 1859, it's a plant.
He's talking to the plant.
Yeah. So in
The
1859,
Latin words you
he was approached by a few Mexican noblemen on the hunt for a good emperor.
I made up.
Yeah, I only approve of emperor hunting if you eat what you kill.
Amen, brother. Amen. Yeah. So the Habsburgs had ruled the viceroyalty of New Spain from its establishment until the War of Spanish Succession. And as a member of the House of Habsburg-Lorraine and the brother of a European emperor, the Mexican monarchists figured that he had more legitimacy than any potential emperor would. Or at the very least, any potential emperor that didn't stand a chance in hell of ruling in Europe and therefore wouldn't want to go to Mexico.
Yeah, today we call that quality of politician a senator.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So his first official invitation came on October 30th, 1861, in the form of a letter from a Mexican diplomat named Gutierrez de Estrada, who asked him directly to just assume the throne of Mexico. And at first, Max turned him down, and I'm sure he told
You can't
himself...
just assume someone's throne.
That's just ridiculous.
Well, you make an ass out of... Well, you know what? He is going to make an ass out of himself and Gutierrez, so yeah. So I'm sure that, like, at the time he said, you know what, I'm too progressive and noble to plunge this blossoming democracy back into monarchical rule. But in truth, it was almost certainly because he didn't think it was going to fucking work, right? Mexico already had themselves a ruler, after all, and that motherfucker wasn't the one sending him a letter. So, but as soon as it became clear, though, that a country with a big-ass army had his back, he couldn't sign on the dotted line fast enough.
Well, a rich guy is rounding up his Proud Boys to go to war for him so he can illegitimately seize power, and Noah is halfway through his essay. So let's take a quick break for apropos of nothing. His Lordship Maximilian I, Viceroy of Venkia.
Cousin, do come in.
Lord Emperor, I am at your service, forever and eternally your servant.
Right, glad to hear it. So look, what about some of these policies that you've put in place as Viceroy?
Do they not please your highness?
Well, no, it's not that. It's just that they seem a little specific.
How so, my lord?
Right, so, for instance, I asked you to set your spies a list of traitors to the crown.
Indeed, Emperor.
But you just sent me a list of people who are cancelled.
Yes, Your Highness. Each and every one a former Stan who we had no choice but to over.
Yeah, no idea what any of that means. Also, your policy of giving alms to the poor.
Yes, Your Greatness.
I mean, the policy itself is a little off of what we would want, but you appear to have embroidered your missive oddly.
Embroidered? How so?
These little drawings of hands.
Oh, yes, my lord. Clap hands, clap hands.
Clap hands, clap hands?
Yes, because I really mean it.
I have to be honest with you, cousin. I don't think you're right for the job.
Well.
You will be all right without your post.
Oh,
though,
yes.
right?
I shall rely on my only kind of ironic OnlyFans.
Well, before we took a break, someone was going to build an emperor and make Mexico pay for it. What happened next?
All right. So before we get back to Mex, we need to talk about Mex. So Mexico gained independence from Spain in 1810. Thank you. No, it would be
During
Mix,
sex.
actually. Mix and Mox would be the next one.
He didn't text Max.
So
I already did Max.
Yep. And so,
Aztecs nailed it.
so Mexico gained independence from Spain in 1810. And then every dozen or so years, they would completely reform their government and try something new.
Again, feels topical, feels fresh.
Yep. Yeah. So you had a series of failed empires, and then you had the first federal republic by 1824. 11 years and 16 heads of state later, you have the centralist republic that lasts until 1846, when it's replaced by the second federal republic. But by 1857, that system had erupted into full-blown civil war, which would last until 1860.
That is a lot of upheaval, but still a notably stable number of press secretaries.
Okay,
But still
fair.
a lot of
So fair. Could be worse. So this war is often called the Reform War or the War of Reform. And at the heart of it is a liberal government that wants to eliminate the political, economic, and cultural power of the Catholic Church.
So they lost then? I don't.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And also to severely reduce the role of the Mexican army in day-to-day affairs. So, yepers. And since the Catholic Church was a vestige of colonial rule that the European powers wanted to protect, and since the army is an army, these reforms lead to war between the liberal reformers and the conservatives that want the army and church to retain their power and maybe want their very own emperor.
This is very topical. Like somehow this ends up at Cuatro Estaciones Total Landscaping. For sure.
All right, so ultimately, under the leadership of President Benito Juarez, the liberal faction won out, but it was a Pyrrhic victory.
A Pyrrhic victory indeed, Noah. Well stated. Well stated.
Really? Yeah. You thought that was well stated?
Yeah, I agree.
Eli, really quick. For $5,000.
Don't do this.
What does Pyrrhic mean?
Triangle shaped.
Wow. Not worth it.
You are. You're not worth it, Tom. You aren't.
No, it means
No.
not worth it. That's
Well, it can be both, right?
It can be all three. All right.
Tom has no idea what a car is, but he can tell you what Pyrrhic means.
my character is confused.
It's a
I
weird
just wanna
character.
say,
Yeah.
my character is not internally confused.
Turn
He's got
guys
the
a
biggest
lot. What are you gonna
vocabulary,
do?
and he's like, it's the thing with the wheels. It's the wheel thing.
I turned the volume down a little bit each sketch.
It's so good.
It's going to be nonverbal.
I'm eating a shoe. Pyrrhic means not worth it, idiot.
All right. So Mexico's infrastructure was in shambles, as was their economy.
Yeah, they probably just got tired of all the winning.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. Yeah, poor guys.
Yeah.
The conservative faction had been defeated, but they hadn't disappeared, and they were still making demands of the Juarez government. At the same time, Mexico had racked up a ton of foreign debt over the course of the war, and now that it was over, Great Britain, France, and Spain wanted their fucking money. So Juarez realizes he can't meet all of his obligations, and if he tries to service the foreign debt, he's going to have to do so at the cost of rebuilding the national infrastructure and therefore getting the fucking economy restarted. So he declares a 2-year moratorium of loan interest payments to French, British, and Spanish creditors. And France, well, yeah, no, they invaded the fucking country.
Yeah. Repo Towboat is gingerly trying to pull Mexico out without damaging the western half of the United States.
We need like Bugs Bunny or something.
Yeah.
You know how he... No, we already started writing the ticket. Stop. We're taking this.
All right, so this invasion is, of course, a violation of the Monroe Doctrine, wherein the United States called dibs on exploiting all the brown people that live south of them. But the U.S. had its own civil war to deal with just then, which meant that the most that the American leadership could really do was send a bunch of letters that said, come on, guys. But it did put a ticking clock on the conflict, as the European powers basically knew that they needed to wrap their shit up and be done before the good guys beat the losing slave-owning losers that lost in the U.S. Civil War.
Just because we pre-record these shows, Noah's talking about the first Civil War.
No, good point. Yeah, no, good on you.
Good clarification.
So most of the world knows this as the second French intervention in Mexico. Well, yeah, but as sanitized as that might sound as far as names for invasions go, it's still a little too harsh for the French, who refer to it as the Mexican Expedition or even the Mexican Adventure.
Nice.
The Aztec
Yeah.
junk.
Exactly. Oh, and by the way, if that sounds bad, I should note that they still to this day refer to the first French intervention in Mexico as the Pastry War.
Oh, pastry war.
Donut versus Danish, the prequel.
Close, actually.
It's real.
Ironically, not a Napoleonic war. Napoleon.
No, actually, it's a
Crushed
fascinating conflict where
Pastry.
nearly 300 people die over
Thank
a
you.
looted pastry shop.
See, now this may be the only war whose origin story I fully support.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
I am on board right now.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it's too far afield to go into any more detail than that, and also very solid chance it'll have its own episode eventually.
Okay, well, the last time I had a Mexican adventure or Aztec jaunt, it ended with Eli and a donkey. There was a one-night
Yep.
only performance. It was it's actually...
I wonder how that donkey's doing. I friended him on Facebook, but I guess he didn't see it because of the format's weird now.
That's weird. He saw my
Yeah.
friend.
It's-
We're friends.
All right, so you might be wondering why
You talking
this
about
is-
Maurice the donkey?
talking-
Yeah.
'Cause he and
I don't even.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh, yeah.
even know him, and he friended me. Yeah.
I zoomed with Tom and Cecil.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Maurice
Oh, yeah,
the other
man.
day.
We're tight. Yeah.
He's like Cecil's best friend now.
Good.
All right, so but now Eli knows that you're lying because he's definitely not tight. So you might be wondering why this is called the French intervention.
They sat France down with all of its family. Your addiction to Mexico has affected my life in the following ways.
Okay, spoiler, Tom, because that's exactly what fucking happens. But why call it the French intervention if France is only one of the three countries intervening? Well, it turns out that's because the other two countries planned on leaving at some point. So in October of 1861, like 3 months after this invasion, they agreed to the Convention of London, which basically made their involvement into it little more than a debt renegotiation with dead guys in it.
They surrendered before France? That's rough.
Well, no, like Mexico agreed to their demands, right? But France figures, hey, you know what? We're already here. There's a whole ocean. We might as well just take over Mexico and make it a puppet government of the French Empire.
Man, and then they left and we didn't, we missed out on French Mex cuisine because this didn't work out.
Oh,
That sounds pretty
great.
scary.
Snail-Doritos.
that would have been fucking amazing.
Oh, man.
So,
What'd
Little
you say?
crepe
Snail
burritos.
Doritos.
That'd be amazing.
yeah.
Nope.
So obviously, this is where Maximilian rejoins the story, right? So he and his
Escar-
brother hate each
I don't have it.
Okay. So he and his brother hate each other at this point, and there's no way in hell he's ever going to have any real power in Europe anymore. And he's still got this tenuous claim to the Spanish throne. There are plenty of potential conservative allies in Mexico, too, that are still nursing their bruises from the Civil War they just lost, and they'd be damn amenable to a new emperor, especially if he agreed to reinstate the power of the church and the army.
Rich guys used to ruin the world because of their own narcissism? What the fuck?
Yeah, can you believe that?
God.
Now, you might be thinking to yourself...
It's too topical.
Now, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, wait, wasn't he a liberal reformer? Why would he aid in the overthrow of a liberal government to replace it with a regressive monarchy? And the answer to that question is, give me a fucking break, Pollyanna, okay? If somebody offered you the Mexican throne tomorrow and you figured there was a pretty solid chance they could make it stick, your personal politics would be way more monarchical by the end of the day. Okay, so once France is actually in possession of Mexico City, he says, why the fuck not? And he signs on.
Me as King of Mexico. Just imagine it. Cecil, you played the doodly-doo I wrote, right?
Huh? Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Yeah, otherwise you just bought those sombreros for nothing. So it's
Right?
yeah,
Thank you.
waste.
So before he can do any of this, of course, he has to sort out this shit back home. So he enters into this bitter negotiation with Franz Joseph that includes renouncing all rights to the Austrian throne and his title as an archduke. Basically, that amounts to burning his bridges on the way out the door. He also gets a quick blessing from the Pope, gets a thumbs up from Queen Victoria, and he sets sail for his new empire.
Oh, classic family dynamic. You ask your older brother for Mexico, and he just says, go ask your queen mother.
Kind of reminds me more of like a bad friend dynamic before a fight in like the Waffle House parking lot.
Yeah.
They're just like, yeah, totally. You should go fight the ethnic guy. That'll go great.
Actually, you know what?
We'll be back
The
here
rest of this
supporting.
story pretty much plays out exactly like that, too, only on a larger scale.
Heath,
so
you
needless
ask
to
people
say-
to fight the ethnic guy a lot. I'm just saying, like a lot.
On the air.
It's
Constantly.
Irish.
What are you, some kind of Mexican monarchist? So, needless to say, the reception was a bit cold, right? So he gets to Mexico. Nobody wants him there. The liberals wanted the elected president.
Yeah, don't we all? That's
Time to waste. Disappointment, guys.
Still counting, Tom. Still counting.
All right, so the
Be a dick.
conservatives were willing to accept that this European monarch over a liberal government, but they would have preferred somebody homegrown. And even the French would rather not hand things over to a liberal Austrian whose loyalties were more or less unknown at this point. But he was what they had, so he arrives to a national go fuck yourself in Veracruz in May of 1864.
Conservative guys were willing to settle on an emperor just to maintain power? That seems really implausible, Noah. I don't know.
Stop having parallels.
All right, well, the bad guys lose in this. All right, so now, I should note that the country wasn't exactly his for the taking, right? So the French expeditionary forces were still engaged with Juarez's loyalists at this point. So Maximilian chooses Mexico City as his imperial seat. He sets up residence in the eminently defensible Chapultepec Castle and sets about emperoring. And one of his first orders of business is acquiring a good heir. So he and his cousin have no kids, so he adopts two kids that are grandsons of a guy who was briefly recognized as Mexico's emperor in the 1820s.
He just goes to the border. There's a nice showroom there, and they have all the kids on display in cages. It's really,
You
it's
need some
great.
Mexican kids?
It's great.
yeah. So they come with their shots and a microchip. How does that work?
They do not. They do not.
Yeah.
No.
And we lose a lot of them.
Yeah.
All right.
Basic
So the
freedom.
They were
last
free
thing that
range
this-
beforehand, though. So,
Damn it.
Of course, the last thing this liberal reformer who just took power wants is to give a bunch of power back up. So he disappoints his conservative allies quick, and he fails to reinstate the former power of the church. In fact, he upholds a bunch of the liberal policies of the Juarez government, including land reform, religious reform, extending the vote beyond landowners. He even offered Juarez amnesty in exchange for allegiance, which the conservatives did not want him to do. And since Juarez turned him down too, he ended up pissing off his allies for pretty much nothing.
That's rough.
What are you doing at the strip club?
What are you doing at the strip club?
I'm telling.
Damn it.
All right, so despite his inability to pacify the country, many European powers were quick to recognize him as the legitimate ruler of Mexico, including Russia, Prussia.
I know you already said that one, Noah.
No, there's two different places, and of course,
Australia.
I don't think it is.
Austria.
That doesn't seem.
But throughout all of it,
I don't
the
know what
US
a car is. So. Fuck me.
All right, but throughout all of it, the U.S. continues to back Juarez, and in May of
In my
18
head, Tom 100% has like the Flintstones car. He's got the giant rack of ribs thing going on.
All right, so but throughout all of it, the U.S. continues to back Juarez, and in May of 1865, they wrap up their civil war and told Maximilian he needs to go ahead and fuck off. The U.S. government puts increasing pressure on the French to withdraw their troops, and they started unofficially arming Juarez's troops by like losing arms shipments over and over again near the Mexican border. Like, where the hell are all
There's
those
just border
bullets?
agents kicking over the guns to
Yeah,
make
right,
sure nobody
right.
uses them.
All right, so Maximilian responds by getting tough. He orders his so-called Black Decree in October of that year, which basically says, look, if you're in a group that I haven't personally approved of that's organized in any way, I'm going to kill you. And he did. Thousands of people were executed, and somehow this failed to endear him to the Mexican people.
Genociding a bunch of innocent people in a last-minute power grab? Sounds more like a white decree to me, but...
Right, yes.
I don't get to name them.
So by 1866, France withdrew their troops. Partly this was due to pressure from the U.S., but the first sparks of what would eventually become the Franco-Prussian War were already flying, and they knew that they were going to need all the troops they could get back home pretty soon. Not that it's going to end up mattering. Anyway, Maximilian refuses to abdicate even when the French urge him to do so. He fought on into 1867, and he eventually winds up besieged in a city called Santiago de Curitiro. He holds up there for a few weeks, but eventually the Republican forces overrun the city and capture him. He's court-martialed, he's sentenced to death, and despite several pleas from European heads of state, the newly reinstalled Juarez government carries through with their sentence and executes him by firing squad at 6:40 a.m. on June 19th of 1867. He gave each of the executioners, by the way, a gold coin and asked them not to shoot him in the head so that his mother could see his face one last time.
Listen, man, you look like a werewolf on chemo. Trust me, she's going to be cool with some face shooting.
We're not going to make it worse,
Improves
man.
the topography, that's for sure. Yeah. After this, they had a 47-year streak of Austrian nobles not getting shot in the body, so that was good. Yeah.
Okay, so wait a minute.
Franz Ferdinand.
So just for reference, this guy had money on him in jail, and the guards were okay with taking money for favors, and he didn't bribe his way out of jail?
Right?
No wonder he didn't make his way in Mexico.
I figure after they all took the money, he's like, wow, I undersold this. Fuck. Yeah.
They were probably like surprised they had to shoot him. Like, everybody just pays us. We didn't think we'd get this far.
I have another thing. Pip.
All right, so after his execution, Maximilian's body was embalmed and displayed in Mexico City because people were way more fucked up back then than we usually give them credit for. The next year, his body was shipped back to Austria and placed in the Imperial Crypt in Vienna, where it can apparently still be viewed today because the people of today are more fucked up than we usually give them credit for.
Very true. No, if you had to summarize what you learned in one sentence, what would it be?
Apparently, Mexico has its very own history, just like America.
Oh, no! Are you ready for the quiz?
C.
All right,
That
Noah.
means yes.
What famous dish is named after Maximilian I? Is it A, the Mexican pizza?
What? Oh,
God. That's
B, they get worse. They get worse. That was the one I had.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, well, this is actually impressive then. If you go.
B, the open, please don't shoot me in the face sandwich.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's-
Yeah.
yeah.
Told you.
yeah, it did get.
And C,
Ramp it down.
don't worry, here it comes. The black bean decreto.
I like that one. It's so bad it turned around back. It's good again.
yeah, no, it's like the horseshoe theory of bad punnery. Yeah.
It's very infrequent that we do a question that makes me rethink this whole segment, and that was one of them. That was one of them.
All right, so since I only have to work harder than Eli on this, I believe it's secret answer D, chili con carnage.
Oh, fantastic. That's correct. Correct.
Bravo!
A,
Bravo!
chili
Well
con
done.
carnage.
Well done.
All right, Noah, Maximilian was not able to properly take over and hold Mexico. What lesson should Maximilian have learned about capturing Mexico as a foreigner? A, if they ask you if you are their returning God King, that answer is always yes. B, just rename it Texas.
Yeah, there you go. Or California. There's all kind of. All right, so again, I think it's a secret answer. I'm going to go with C. Just plan to be on the shitter for most of that first evening.
Got it, one.
All right, no, I got one for you. So Ted Cruz is an ugly person.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to leave that hanging for a
True.
second.
Is it true?
He's
or
not
false?
attractive.
True.
He's an unattractive
Okay.
person.
Mhm, yeah.
And the Civil War beard made it even worse. So what's
I don't
the
know
name?
that there was a worse.
Well, you'd think it would cover stuff, but he's got the skin mask thing going, but it did make it worse. What is the name of Ted Cruz's barbershop? A, Trim Crow.
B, Phantom of the Chopra. Or C, 12 years a shave.
So amazing.
All right, wait, those are too
Did
good for
Eli
me to
write those for you? Those are great.
Yeah, no, I can't do a secret answer on that one. I'm just gonna have to go with B, Phantom of the Chopra.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct.
So
All right, Noah. What signaled the end of the pastry war? A, the bombing of Charlotte. B,
Wait.
the Tet offensive. C, the Battle of Stalingrad. And now, gosh, I'm telling you, there's like one pastry chef in the audience that's like, Cecil crushing him right now. Yes.
Tet offensive is so good.
D, the sinking of the Bismarck.
That's so good.
I'm gonna go with B, the Tet offensive, because that one I got.
All right.
All right.
Tet offensive is it. Oh, sorry. But
who won,
Heath's were way funnier, so Heath wins.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Next week, let's hear some just not factual information. Eli, you're up.
Oh, that means me.
Oh.
Yeah, that's me.
That's perfect. Is have to write a question. All right. Well, for Heath, Eli, Tom, and Noah, I'm Cecil. Thanking you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week, and by then, Eli will be reading something false. Between now and then, you can check out our other shows, both video and audio. And if you'd like to help keep this show going, you can get per episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod or leave us a 5-star review everywhere you can.
Do you guys have like one that's a video? Do you guys have a video one?
I do have a video one myself.
We just do audio mostly.
Yeah.
He's still hurting pretty bad about cooking ramen with me not taking off. He's pretty sore.
And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes. Be sure to check out citationpod.com.
So, couldn't get citationneeded.com, huh?
No, we could not. We couldn't. No.
Holy shit. Thomas, have you been here this whole time?
Of course.
Oh. So, how was it?
How dare you, sir?
Get out of here, Thomas.
I am
Open
going to
Arguments
fucking
podcast.
stab you.
Asshole.
Fine. I'm
Everyone
going.
knows it's pronounced rabbi. He's not fooling anyone.